How are you doing out there? So, happy Monday. Hope you're all feeling a bit livelier than I am. Not feeling so lively today. Oh, Matilda's here. Hey, Matilda, thank you for joining. Can you just confirm for me, Matilda, that you can actually hear me? This is always the bit that sends me into a panic in terms of YouTube and whether people can hear me. All right. So we have Gaurav here as well from New Delhi. Oh, it's quite late in New Delhi, isn't it? It must be like 10:30 at night or something. So thanks for coming this late. Brett, New Jersey. Very nice. I just did a one-to-one coaching session with someone from New Jersey. Not clearly, I know there are many, many people that live in New Jersey and you're unlikely to know this person. And not that I'm going to name them anyway, but little coincidence there for you. A man from South 128. Welcome back. Thank you for letting me know that you can hear me. Oh, lots of people joining. Yay. Hello, everybody. Oh, Gaurav, you've got some good news. I will come to you soon then. Yay. Nina from SEA, Seattle. That's Seattle, Nina. We've got Tanvi. Hello, Tanvi. Thank you for joining. Welcome. PB from Knoxville, Tennessee. Excellent. Oh, you've got your loop this afternoon. Nerve-wracking. You'll be great. You'll be wonderful. Been paying attention to my channel. You will be wonderful. Hola, we have, not quite sure how I would pronounce your name. It would be Johan. Would it be Johan? Have I got that right, the pronunciation? I hope so. From Madrid. Hola. Who else do we have? We have Ola Supo. Welcome from Ola from Nigeria. Excellent. Thank you for letting me know you can hear me. Jocelyn from New Jersey. God, New Jersey's in the house today. It's exciting. Maya, you're here in London. Yes, it has been blowing a storm. My husband took the dog out for a walk, but recommended I didn't go this morning because he thought I'd get blown over, which is obviously very kind in terms of my husband's consideration for me. But yeah, it's been a bit wild here, hasn't it? Oh, Low Monk is here. Hello, hola. How are you doing today? Lovely to see you as always. Okay, so, and we've got Esther here from Toronto. What a fabulous mix of places today. And Matthew from New Orleans. I am desperate to go to New Orleans, Matthew. So desperate. I will be coming your way in about 10 years' time, I think, when my children have finally left and are no longer a burden to me. Right. So why don't we just get going? I'll do my intro. Just bear with me if you've heard all of this before. I kind of got to do it. So I am Gigi, and I, as you well know, am the Amazon interview whiz. I am an ex-senior leader and bar raiser from Amazon. I guess the difference between me and maybe the other people that you see here on YouTube is that as a bar raiser, you get exposed to pretty much every single part of the interview process across the organization. Different teams manage their interview processes so differently. And unless you've had the opportunity to be exposed across many teams, tech and non-tech, many different parts of the globe, you're really only going to have a pretty limited perspective of the Amazon interview process. So that's what I bring. I have hired hundreds of Amazonians across tech and non-tech, like many dozens of different job families and many different countries of the world. The reason I do what I do is when I was interviewing a bar raising at Amazon, I could tell the candidates who had expert Amazon interview coaching. They knew the lingo. They knew exactly how to land the leadership principles. They knew all of the cues that we were looking for in Amazon in terms of scale and seniority and all of those things. So me being a good Amazonian got a bit curious and discovered that, at least at the time, which was a good few years ago now, if you wanted to get Amazon interview coaching, it cost quite a lot of money. There weren't that many people on YouTube doing it. And those that were really charging a premium for their support beyond the limited content they had on YouTube. So I just started to create a YouTube channel whilst I was still at Amazon. After I left at Amazon, I decided I would create my own Amazon interview preparation, which is what I've done. I have at my own academy, which is a bunch of digital courses that pretty much tell you everything you need to know to land your job at Amazon at pretty much the fraction of a cost compared to maybe my competitors, because I'm very much focused on digital content. I am very interested in making sure that my type of expertise is accessible to as many people as possible. So I've continued to build my YouTube channel. Of course, you're here. I do these free sessions. I'm also on Twitter. I do a bunch of stuff on LinkedIn. And then, of course, I have my academy. And stay until the end, because I'm going to give you the best freebie on Amazon interviewing and the whole of YouTube. I'm pretty confident on that one. So the way this session works then is you get to ask me any question that you like. And broadly, I'm confident I can answer about 95% of them. Some questions are so super specific about particular job families that I might not be able to answer it. There are thousands of different job families and roles in Amazon, and no one human being could possibly know everything about all of them. So there will be some that I'll have to just admit I cannot give you the information on. Equally, if your request is just, can I, a general request, Gigi, I've got an interview tomorrow, any tips? For sure, many hours of them, all on the YouTube channel. So please don't ask me generic questions, but on those two extremes, please avoid anything in the middle. Go for it. There is no holes barred as far as this session is concerned. So please do put your question along the right-hand side here, and I will try and pick ones that are most useful for everybody. I am conscious that over the past few weeks, my channel has grown quite a lot, and the attendees to this session has also grown quite a lot. So I've found myself not being able to get through all of the questions that are being asked. So if your question is really important and you really want me to answer it, you can make use of the super chat functionality that I have here on YouTube. Okay, so I think that is everything I wanted to share. So why don't we just get started? I do have a bit of a cold, so I'm going to apologize if I sniff at some point. It's disgusting, I know. I'm not sure what's worse, me blowing my nose in front of you or me sniffing. You can let me know. So I do apologize in advance if that happens. I'll try and avoid it. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is find the first question. But before I do, I know that there are a couple of you on here who have landed your Amazon roles recently. So if you would like to make note of it here, I don't want to out you unless you want to out yourself. But if you would like to make a note of it here, I can then share it with the community for a little bit of, yay, you're fantastic, and a little bit of encouragement to everybody else that it is definitely possible. So please do that if you would like to. Do. I say do all the time. It makes me laugh every time. I'm so immature. Do. Stop. Okay. I sniffed. There we go. Right. So the first person here is Gaurav, who made it through your loop, and you have a role. So congratulations. I am so delighted for you. I know you've been to my sessions quite a few times. So well done for all of your hard work, and have a fantastic Amazon career. I know you will. I know you will learn things you will never learn anywhere else and grow in ways you would never grow anywhere else. So congratulations. I know it's hard work, but it's definitely worth it. Okay, so let's move on. See what questions we have. Oh, Kim's here as well. Hi, Kim. Nice to see you. I love it when people come along who I know. It makes me feel like they're all coming over to my place for a party. A bit of a dull party, but oh well, I do the best that I can. All right, let's keep going and see if we have any questions. Okay. Moving on, right, so. Right. Hey, Sabina. So I'm going to cover this one really quickly, Sabina. So you want me to tell you a typical example of a technical question that you might be asked. So as I said earlier, I don't know can't get into the deep details of every single different job family. There's huge variety. In terms of program manager roles, the typical types of questions that you're going to be asked, and we use technical in the broadest sense of the word, but it will be around the tools that you have used, how you might deal with a particular challenge, that type of thing. But I actually would not expect too many technical questions to come from a program manager role. best thing you can do really is to speak to your recruiter and ask them whether there will be technical elements. Functional elements, I think, is better rather than technical in the context of program manager, and ask them for some advice on what functional type questions you might expect. Okay. Oh, we've got Janessa from South Africa. That's cool. I don't know if I've had someone from South Africa before. That's exciting. Lyndon from Nottingham. I do like Nottingham. That's in England, by the way, for most of you who won't know. Okay. Oh, a man from South 128. You're going through my leadership principle masterclasses. Awesome. Awesome. I will be giving everyone a freebie of one of those at the end. So do hang around. A man from South 128 thinks they're great. Here we go. Matilda sent me such a lovely message on YouTube. It was just, it was lovely. It made me smile so much. And I asked her to make sure that she joined today because I wanted everybody to be able to see Matilda's success story. Matilda's been joining my sessions consistently for a while now, and I believe is also a Academy member. So yay! You got your offer last Wednesday. Oh, congratulations. I'm so excited for you, as you well know, because I replied that on YouTube. But again, everybody, I know it's hard work. I know there's the most enormous amount of prep, probably far more than you could ever have imagined and certainly will ever face for any other interview process. But it is possible. Amazon has like 1.3 million employees at this stage. It is definitely possible to land a job. Matilda is evidence. So congrats, Matilda. I wish you the most fantastic Amazon career, and please do stay in touch. I love to know how my people, as I believe you are getting on in your Amazon roles. So yay. Thank you for joining. I'm so pleased to see you here. It makes me happy. Okay. What else do we have? Oh, okay. Hey, Day. So you are doing a loop for an EA, which I'm going to assume is executive assistant. Everybody loves to throw their acronyms at me here, assuming that I will know the acronym for their particular job type, even though that there are thousands. But okay, I reckon EA is an executive assistant. So I can't tell you exactly what they're going to focus on for executive assistant, because again, I don't know every single job description off by heart and the key LPs for every single of the thousands of job families in Amazon. But what I will tell you, Day, is to have a look at your job description, because everything you need to know about the things that they really care about from a leadership principles point of view is in your job description. The best thing to do is to go back to my YouTube channel, click on my playlist, which is a job description deconstruction playlist, and that will show you exactly how you go through your job description line by line and identify language that is associated with the key leadership principles. So that's one thing you can do. The second thing you should do is just ask your recruiter. They may tell you, I think statistically, well, I can't give you a statistically valid sample here, but based on my experience with my candidates, it's about a 50-50 chance that your recruiter will be willing to share the leadership principles with you. But you should definitely ask, and that goes for all of you. You should definitely ask if they're willing to share the leadership principles with you. If they are, amazing. If they're not, it doesn't matter. No one's going to put a black mark against your name just because you asked for something that they refused to give you. So, Day, go check out the leadership principle job description on my YouTube and ask your recruiter if they're willing to share. I hope that helps. Oh, wow. Shalini's back. And you got selected and your joining date is Feb 28th. That's a crazy day. You are so welcome. And look, I'm delighted that I managed to support you and help clearing up any of your doubts. So as I said to Matilda and Gaurav, you will have an amazing career, and you will, like, your professional capabilities will just like that. Congratulations. I'm really privileged to have been a part of it. Good luck. Okay. Moving on then. Oh, we have Melissa from NC. What's NC? North Carolina? Is that right? North Carolina? Sorry if that's wrong, Melissa, my guest. Okay. What else do we have? Oh, so sweet, Matilda. All right, let's see what else we have. Oh, interesting. Yeah. Hey, Maya. Oh, welcome back, Maya. I do remember you from last week. So you've got your second phone screen on Friday. Cool. On your first one, your interviewer repeated each question twice and told me that it's not a speed contest. Do they expect us to take our time before answering? Well, there's no expectation that no one teaches you your candidate should take their time in answering, but it's certainly sensible to, number one, think about what you're going to say before you say it, and number two, pace yourself as you tell your narrative, because your interviewer is trying to capture notes on what you're saying. And if you speed through it at 100 miles an hour or 120 kilometers an hour, depending on where you're from, then they aren't going to be able to capture all of the information that you share. And if they can't capture the information, number one, they might not remember it. And number two, all of the other interviewers who are going to, at some point, read your notes, and this is less pertaining to phone screens and more pertaining to Loop, aren't going to know that information because they weren't in the room with you. So yes, I would suggest it's very good practice to pause, write down the question. You all know that's my favorite tip. Write down the question, think about the question, find the best example in your head so you can answer the question. And then as you tell your narrative, tell it at a measured pace so that someone can actually type what you're saying. If you want to test whether someone can type what you're saying and capture everything, here's a good thing you can do. Record yourself speaking, then play yourself back and try and type down everything that you've just said to yourself, or at least enough of it so that you would be able to understand it. And if you're too familiar with it, record it and ask someone in your household to type it down. That's a good way of finding whether you're speaking at a pace that is actually manageable for the other person on the other side of the screen. I hope that helps, Maya. Gaurav, can I share some tips on salary negotiation? So I can share some basic tips in terms of what I recommend you do. And then I'm going to share a link to somebody else's YouTube channel because they've got an amazing playlist about compensation. So my first tip about salary negotiation is do it. Never, ever accept the first offer. My second tip on salary negotiation is know your value in the market. In the US, actually, that's relatively easy because there are some good websites like levels.fyi and payscale.com. It's much harder in Europe where there aren't such robust data sets available to us. Blind, do you know the website Blind? That's another useful source where people go on and post their offers. Glassdoor is okay. It's not my favorite resource, but if you're in Europe, you probably don't have much choice. But know your value in the market. My third tip then becomes have a plan. What is your absolute base, something you will not take below and will walk away if that's as good as they can make it? And then what is your goal number? What are you really targeting? What you should ask for should be higher than what you're actually targeting because it's a negotiation and they're unlikely to give you exactly what you want. Fifth tip then becomes Amazon is much more willing and flexible to negotiate on RSUs than they are on any other variable in the compensation package, which is threefold: base, sign-on bonus, and RSUs. So if you genuinely don't need the money to just live on and you don't need it from a cash flow perspective, it is worth considering asking them if they will kind of push your number up, but put that value into RSUs. Now, of course, the market is volatile. And before the last couple of years, I'd have always said to you, the dollar that you would get in value for RSUs today will be worth more when it eventually vests. But I don't feel that I can confidently say that anymore. But if you're in it for the long game and you don't need the cash, then Amazon is much more likely to negotiate with you on RSUs than they are on base pay. The final thing I will then say is I have a good friend in Amazon, Amy Miller, who maybe you know from YouTube. She's a YouTube top voice for 2021. She's an Amazon recruiter. She does lots of amazing content on YouTube and on LinkedIn, and she has a fabulous playlist on Let's Talk About Money. So you can just check her out here on YouTube. Just search her. She's Amy Miller, recruiting in yoga pants, and she has a good playlist of about 4 or 5 vids that you can look at and probably get some more insight there. I hope that helps, Gaurav. Okay. IH, you got an offer for a second phone screen. What does this mean? Does it mean you weren't inclined for the first phone screen? Okay. So nobody's inclined at the first phone screen. You only ever get an inclined offer when you make it all the way through loop. What a second phone screen means is that your team has a process where they have 2 phone screens before moving to loop. It's an established process. I think I mentioned it at the beginning, so variable in terms of the different processes that different teams use for the Amazon interview process. It is not one holistic process. Totally different for so many different teams. That was less of the case when I was hired 7, 8 years ago now, but certainly now massive deviation. And it just so happens that you are interviewing for a team who has phone screen 1, phone screen 2, and then on to loop. That is my preferred process anyway, just as an FYI, as a hiring manager, that's what I preferred. So that's all it means. It doesn't mean anything other than you're progressing through the process nicely, and congratulations, you're on to the next step. Okay. Okay, you're seeing stats on LinkedIn that there are many people with master's degrees applying to internships that you also applied for, that's specifically for undergrads. Would you be overqualified? Well, if the internship specifically says it's for undergrads, then yeah, you don't qualify because you're not an undergrad. You're a graduate, now moved on to your master's. It's going to depend on the criteria for those types of internships. Sometimes those are very hard criteria and you can't get past them, and sometimes they're somewhat looser. So just, if you want to submit your application, the worst thing that can happen is you get rejected, and then really you've lost nothing. So yeah, that would be my tip there. Hey, Michael. So you've got your loop on Thursday. Excellent. Congratulations. And the recruiter told me that you can reuse any stories from the first 2 phone interviews. Do I think that's accurate? Yes, absolutely. It's accurate. Like, there's no laws against reusing stories, but there is best practice, and there's best practice for a reason. And the best practice is, if you can avoid repeating stories, it's a good thing, because Amazon is looking for evidence that you consistently perform at a high level. So the more unique stories you can present about your high level performance, the more consistent you appear to be. However, that is very difficult for many people, considering how many questions you're likely to face all the way through that process. Some people will not be able to come up with unique stories for all of them. And therefore, it makes sense that you would have to repeat some of your stories. My advice is, if you're going to repeat some of your stories, try to repeat them in response to a different type of question, so a different leadership principle. Most good quality stories will have a couple of leadership principles in them that you can lean into. And the real skill is how you take the same story, the behaviors that you understand the leadership principles are looking for, and reshape your story in 2 different directions, so that if you do end up telling the same overall narrative, you focus on very different aspects of that. I did it again. Oh dear, I'm sorry. I just amused myself. I do an example of how you go about that on my interview preparation masterclass that you can find on my academy. So to summarize up, of course you can reuse stories. There's no law against it. It's just going to be to your advantage if you don't reuse stories, if you can avoid it, or if you can't avoid it, that you reuse a story by focusing it on very different leadership principles. I hope that helps, Michael. Good luck. Fingers crossed. Come back and let us know how you get on. Okay. Ooh. Okay. Hey, Cheryl, welcome. So you're going for an L8 loop. Big job, big job. I'm sure the more advanced level of my stories will indicate level. Yes. How is L8 determined at loop? How can you avoid a down level? It's not possible to avoid. I cannot sit here and tell you exactly what criteria defines an L8. Nobody can, right? The reason nobody can exactly tell you what will define an L8 is twofold. The first is the bar is always raising, right? An L8 3 months ago, 6 months ago will not be an L8 today. The bar is always moving. So that's the first thing to bear in mind. Don't believe anyone who tells you they can tell you exactly what constitutes a bar raising example at any level, because they can't. The second thing I'll tell you, and why it's almost impossible to do, is it's the level at which a role or a candidate is measured is a very conceptual thing. It is a decision that is made based on the collective experiences of those people who are interviewing you, based on their extensive and daily interactions with other Amazonians at your level, the level above you, and the level below your level, at the level the role is at, the level above that, and the level below that. It is a decision that they come to through their collective experiences, and they're benchmarking in their discussions together in terms of what you've demonstrated and what they've seen in their day-to-day, which is another reason why no one can sit down and give you a checklist of this, to be bar raising equals this, that. I wish I could tell you otherwise. If I could, and if I had the exact answer, I would be rich, because I would bottle it and sell it and I'd be rich. I cannot tell you that. And anyone that does tell you that they can, I'm sorry, I don't believe they're telling you the truth. So how can you avoid? Well, you can't avoid it, but you can try. And that's, you just have to go as big as you possibly can, Cheryl. So at an L8 level, you've got to be thinking about big impacts, right? So material impacts in your organization. You've got to be talking about significantly ambiguous problems that you had to solve in your organization. Significantly. You have to be talking about the seniority of the people that you're working with. I want to be hearing from you that you're working with SVPs, at that type of level, VPs, SVPs. Those are the type of people, the senior people that you're interacting with. So you just have to maximize the complexity, the narrative of the ambiguity, the narrative of the high stakes, the narrative of all the moving parts that were going on in your examples, the size of your impact, and the seniority of the people that you're working with. And by the way, that entire list of seniority signals is true for absolutely everybody. You have to maximize it for yourself at the level that you're operating at. That's what I can do for you, Cheryl. I'm sorry I don't have the silver bullet answer for you. Nobody does. Go big. I hope that helps to a degree. Okay, let me just move on. Okay, whoa, massive jump there. Sorry, I lost control of it. I lost control. Right, I'm back. Right, so let's see, what else do we have? Okay, Brett. So this is kind of follows on from Cheryl's question. So not all of your examples have large scale and complexity. Is it okay to discuss examples that answer the LPs but are not as complex as others? Well, of course it's okay, Brett. But if all of your examples are simple, and when I say simple, I mean simple relative to the level of the role that you're applying for. A simple L6 role answer is very different from a simple L8 answer, obviously. The risk is, if you have a big bank of relatively simple examples, you risk what Cheryl was concerned about, which is being down-leveled, or not even down-leveled, but just not being believed to be raising the bar. So yeah, you can. If you are going to go for simple, I recommend you focus on leadership principles that are much more about the human element of things. So simplicity in earn trust, you can get away with, because it's all about the human relationships. It doesn't have to be a huge complex example. It just needs to be a complex relationship with tension and drama and excitement. Sorry, they're very rarely exciting, but you know what I mean? Or some of the customer obsession ones as well. You can probably focus there on examples that are simpler. But if you're thinking about examples like deliver results, invent and simplify, ownership, they just don't land particularly well if they're simple examples, because they're only really impressive as behaviors when complexity is involved. So think about the balance, Brett, between your complex ones and your simple ones. And if you have simple ones, maybe try and focus them a bit more on kind of customer obsession and earn trust and those types of more human leadership principles. I hope that helps. Let's keep going. Oh, hey, Crypto Queen. Oh, you got the role. Oh, congratulations. I am so pleased for you. I'm so delighted that it was helpful for you. And man, I super love the picture of the cat. That's cute. Congratulations. I'm so proud. I'm glad you found the session useful, and just have an amazing Amazon career and stay in touch, please. Any of you that have been part of my community and you land roles, please do stay in touch with me. You can always find me on LinkedIn, but I just love to know how everybody's doing. Trapped in my dungeon here, I do love to hear about the outside world. So, yay. Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. Dimitri, hello. Are gaps in a resume a big no for recruiters? No, they are not. That's a myth of the past. We do not live in that world anymore. Thankfully, we're all a much more enlightened bunch. But what I will say is, Dimitri, although it's a gap, fill the gap with something. Let them know what you were doing. You were taking a career break, you were doing volunteering. Just make sure it doesn't just look like a physical gap where you fell off the planet for 6 months to a year. Let us know what you were doing. I say us, I was never a recruiter. Don't want to mislead anybody. Let them know what you were doing. As a hiring manager, I would love to know when gaps appear, what were they doing? And even if they say career break, or they say looking after my children, very, very valid reasons to take time off, trust me, that's fine. But just let them know what you were doing so that there's not kind of like, ooh, what's going on here? Is it an error in the resume? Okay. Okay. Right. So I'm going to do this one quickly. How do you know what level you're interviewing for? So for some parts of the business, it's relatively easy because there is a fixed nomenclature that Amazon uses. In kind of retail, it works. In the entertainment groups, it works. Audible, I think it works as well, which is a junior role, and kind of an L4 and L5 is a something manager. Let's use marketing as an example here. Marketing manager. An L6 would be a senior marketing manager, and an L7 would be a senior manager marketing or principal marketing, and then an L8 is a director. That works in a number of the business units. It just fails miserably in AWS. I can tell you that, having reviewed so many AWS job descriptions, they just seem to have no fixed nomenclature at all for their roles. So you can't use that. The next thing I try and use when I'm doing a deep dive on a job description is the number of years of experience that they're looking for. Now, in some countries, that's illegal and you can't even put it in the job description. So unfortunately, if you're in that country, that type of country, you ain't going to have that either. But broadly, where it does exist, anything that is kind of 15 years plus tends to be a L7. Anything that runs kind of 8 to 15 years tends to be an L6. And then anything that runs kind of 5 to 8 tends to be an L5. And then anything less than 5 tends to be a L4. That is, however, a very broad, sweeping assumption. Very averagey average. Can't promise you, if that's what's written on your job description, that that is exactly what it is. You can always ask your recruiter. Really, it doesn't matter what the level is, honestly. What matters is whether the type of work that you're going to be doing is going to be challenging for you, and if they can give you the type of compensation that you're looking for. That aside, what difference does the level make? I do think people obsess a little bit too much about what the actual number of the level is. Okay, moving on. Yeah. Jocelyn, very quickly, yes, it is perfectly normal to only have 2 rounds. As I mentioned a little bit earlier on in this session, different teams are doing it in completely different ways. So far, I think I know of about 8 different process pathways that you can go through in the Amazon interview process. So yeah, Jocelyn, that is perfectly normal. Email marketing manager, such a cool role. I had lots of email marketing managers working for me when I was at Amazon. They do cool stuff there. So congrats, good luck. Good luck. Okay, moving on then. What else do we have? Okay, look, loads and loads of questions. I'm conscious it's now 6:05 and I'm not even halfway through. So if you really want me to answer your question, do make use of the super chat functionality. I'm going to stop ever so briefly now and ask you to do something for me. Now, you know, I put a lot of effort into this channel with these sessions and the videos that I create, and I need something in return for you. For my content to surface to the people that need it, it needs engagement signals. Engagement signals are things like liking the actual video and putting comments in it. So please, when you watch any of my content, please do take a millisecond just to press the like button, or even better, say hi Gigi, which I love. I will always reply on YouTube. For now, I'm going to ask you to like this stream right now. And I'm going to ask you to spend 2 seconds doing that. So whilst I ask you to do that briefly, I'm going to play a little video which amuses me. I do need to create some new ones, but here's a little video that amused me so that you can spend a few seconds doing that. Let's go. Like the stream. Like the stream. Like the stream. There we go. A few seconds of British lunacy for you. And then if you did like it, thank you so much. If you didn't yet like the stream, why? Why would you not do that for me? All right, let's jump on and see what else we can find here. I'm going to have to be a bit more brutal now in managing my time, so I apologize. I'm going to try and do some leaping, see what I can find. Oh, Vince. Hey, Vince, you're back. Thank you for telling your friends about me. I really appreciate that. What else do we have? Yeah. This is a good question. One of my candidates I did coaching on the other day asked me this question about what they should ask their what they should ask their recruiter in their prep session. And I'm just going to find what I sent them to make sure that I don't forget. Right, hang on a second. What did I send them? Can't find it now. All right. So what I told them, I think, was the first thing, which is really useful to ask, is to find out from the recruiter if they'll share with you if anybody else has been ahead of you and has failed the interview process. Were there any trends in why it was those people have been failing? Because that gives you a little bit of a tip of what they're really looking for in terms of that role. So that's the first thing. Second thing, always the leadership principles. It depends on where you are in the process. Leadership principles. The third is how long have they been looking to hire for this role? That's a really good little bit of information to get if you get through to an offer stage. Because if you know they've been trying to hire this role for a year, then that is a really good piece of leverage. You know you're in a strong position at that point. Or if it's a burning platform and they absolutely need to hire this role, again, that's a bit of leverage for you. So those are the things that I would say to your recruiter. One other thing I would say, but I don't know if it applies to you, is to try and see if they'll give you any tips on what you need to be thinking about if you've already had an interview, because they will have seen the notes that the previous interviewer had put on the system, and they might give you some little tips and insights on where that interviewer thought the next interviewer needed to do some deep exploration, because perhaps they were a little bit shaky in terms of their confidence in you on that one. So I would ask that question as well. When you talk about how to maximize their advocacy for you, you don't need to. Recruiter has no say whatsoever in the outcome of your process. Zip, zero, zilch. Now, if you're rude, if you're offensive, they will definitely pass that information on. But in terms of the value of their advocacy, and I'm sure there will be some recruiters that listen to this and go, Gigi, that's not true. As a bar raiser, you look at the evidence that is available. And it's got to be the evidence based on the leadership principles. So unless your recruiter has evidence on you that relates to the leadership principle that the bar raiser asks them to add to the debrief, their advocacy means nothing. So love recruiters, don't get me wrong. Incredible, difficult job. Respect them hugely. But in terms of the actual Amazon interview process, they do not really have any influence. Okay, I hope that helps. Going to move on now. Okay. Leonore, how are you doing? Right, so your dream is to work at Amazon and you're nervous to fail the interview, as most people are, I think. Can you still apply to other roles immediately or do you need to wait? So, oh, isn't that funny? I think I did a video on that just earlier on today. I was recording a video about the Amazon cooling off period. It's not going to go onto YouTube now for a couple of weeks because I was building in advance, but I'll summarize for you. It depends when you fail the process. If you fail the process high up the funnel in early rounds, that you can reapply immediately. If you fail the process at loop, whether you can reapply immediately or not is actually the call of the bar raiser. They will either tell your recruiter that you are a not inclined recycle, which means they're not inclined, but you're free to apply for other roles, or a not inclined no recycle, which means you're not free to apply for other roles. You've been asked to go into a cooling off period, and your recruiter will tell you what the cooling off period is. That's my summary. Just, I would say come back in a couple of weeks, but maybe your phone interview will be done by then. Okay. Haha, Michelle. So you're from Berlin. Guten Tag. No, that's not guten Tag. That's good morning. And then I'd say good Nacht, but then I think that's I'm going to bed. So I'm sorry. I need to work harder on my German. I think the only thing I know how to say is my pen is broken, which is mein Kuli ist kaputt. That's about what I know. Sorry. I will do better. Right. So how do you make yourself stand out to them? You should do my course, Michelle. You opened yourself up to that one. Look, it's not about standing out, people. You're not trying to stand out against a crowd of other people. What you're trying to do is prove to them that you operate at a level that is better than 50% of the current population working at that level in similar roles in Amazon, right? And here's the kicker. You don't know what that level is because you don't work in Amazon. And for all of the reasons that I was just explaining to Cheryl a little bit higher up. So all you can do is understand the leadership principles as well as you possibly can. And yes, my course, I think it's the best course out there that will help you do that. The second thing you have to do is come up with the best examples that you can related to those leadership principles. The third thing that you need to do is make sure that your examples have complexity, impact, all of those things. The next thing you need to do is make sure that you can articulate your stories clearly and concisely using the STAR format. So I'm afraid I cannot give you that silver bullet. I wish I could. As I said, I would be able to retire, as would my entire family, if I could provide silver bullets for how you get into Amazon. But it's not about standing out. It's about raising the bar using your examples. I'm going to give you a freebie, Michelle, at the end of this of one of my master classes. So take that and hopefully that will give you a sense of kind of the depth of behaviors that they're looking for in terms of customer obsession, which is the one that I'm going to give you. Okay, so moving on. Oh, Michelle, you're going for an RC. Oh, I love the RCs that I worked with. Such good people. Tough job. Okay, what else do we have? Okay, so more people asking about repeating answers, so I'm not going to go back to that one. If you weren't here when I talked about that a few minutes ago, please do replay this and you'll be able to find my answer to that. Okay, quick one here. Adebanga, hello from Nigeria. You've applied for several roles and a recruiter reached out to you. They'd like to schedule a phone call with you about the roles. What does it mean? They want to talk to you about your experience and get a sense of whether you're a good applicant for the role. And this will be in order for them to effectively filter your resume before they decide to hand it back over to the hiring manager for them to review. So they're trying to work out, are you a good fit for the role? It's as simple as that. Okay. Moving on. Okay. Okay. Okay, right. So Mayuri, let me just read this. All right, let me quickly just do this one. So you had an interview last week of Jan, you got rejected from the on-site. After 2 weeks, another team contacted you for a similar role and said they were aware that you got a rejection from the last one that you did recently. Now you've cleared the phone interview for the new role. Will I have a loop for the interview again? Yes. Yes. You will have to do a loop again. That was quick. All right, moving on, moving on. Marketing specialist, Maya. I reckon that's an L5. It's an unusual job title, but if it doesn't say senior, then I think it's an L5. Okay, moving on then. Yeah. Hey, Jasmine. I'm really glad you asked this question. Diversity doesn't come up too often in these sessions, and I really wish they would. So thank you for asking. So you have ADHD, and sometimes you stumble over your words or talk at a fast pace. Is it good practice to disclose this at the beginning of your final loop? Absolutely. Absolutely. For two reasons. Number one, you'll relax. If you know that they know, you won't be struggling to try and hide it and dampen your kind of behaviors. Equally, you do them a favor because none of their cognitive load is spent being concerned about a behavior that they don't know the source of. So, for those two reasons, I would say absolutely. I think you also should tell your recruiter ahead of time so that they can also make sure that the interviewers are prepped and recognize that this is your particular challenge. I will say, just from my own personal experience, Jasmine, I have what's called an essential tremor, which I have very shaky hands. And when adrenaline pumps through my body, literally my hands shake like this. So I have bottles of water, never glasses. I did have a glass in a job interview once, and my hands shook so much, it actually went everywhere. Since then, it was hilarious. I thought it was funny. I think the interviewer didn't know what was going on. I think they thought I was having a fit. But I always take a bottle with me now. But at the beginning of every single one of my interviews, whether they're internal or external interviews, I always tell my interviewer about my essential tremor, because then I'm not concerned about my ridiculous shaking and they don't sit there worrying that I'm about to have an epileptic fit. So it's never caused me any issues in terms of, or as far as I'm aware, any issues in terms of my performance and their consideration of my capability. So I would highly suggest that you do share that information. And thank you for asking that question. I really appreciate that. Okay, moving on then. Okay. Okay. Oh, Samesh. Hey, Samesh. Oh, it's good to see you. Welcome back. Oh, it's so nice when people who have been with me for a while and then followed by Bite Bitten. Do you two like sit in the same office together? It's like the two of you next to each other here. Love it when people come back. I love you people. Part of my community. It's fabulous. Bite Bin's here to say hi and watch the stream. Oh, I do have to do a new one. I know I do. I just can't come up with something because I record the singing. I know. I record the singing myself, so I have to find a combination of a jib jab and a tune and a kind of an orchestral tune that I can then sing something over the top of, and I just can't find one. So if you have any suggestions for a video that you think would be cool with a soundtrack, you let me know. Yeah, okay. Jocelyn, I'm going to cover this one because I know we've spoken before already, but people don't really ask this question, so I'm going to jump on this one. So will you be asked why you're leaving your current role, especially if it's under a year? So this is not something anyone in Amazon is trained to ask. Quite frankly, it's none of Amazon's business, in my point of view, why it is you're leaving your role. And I had a very contentious debate about this on LinkedIn. If you're on LinkedIn, you can go check out my post history and see kind of the drama that caused when I said that on LinkedIn. I think it's very reasonable for an employer to ask you, what is it about this role that appeals to you? Or very reasonable for someone to ask you, what's inspired you to look for new opportunities. That's quite different from saying kind of what's wrong with your current job that you're leaving, right? It's framed in a very different way. So my expectation is that no one really should ask you that question phrased in that way. Now, just because that's my expectation, it doesn't mean that's the reality. I have had candidates tell me quite recently that somebody asked them why they were leaving their current role. I personally wouldn't answer the question. I would phrase it differently. And that's obviously in your wheelhouse to do that if you want to. So it is possible that someone might ask you, why Amazon? That's definitely going to be the question. And they might say, what has inspired you to look for a new opportunity? They very possibly could look at your resume and ask you why you're leaving after a year. I personally think it's none of their business what the deficits are in your current role that's making you look for a new role, but be prepared that someone might ask it. But I think it's an edge case. Most people know that that is not an appropriate question to ask a candidate. Okay, moving. Yes. Oh, Asha. I'm having such a great day today. So many job offers. It's fantastic. I'm going to leave my office singing when this is done. So Asha, congratulations, senior TPM. Amazing. I'm so, so happy I was able to support you. Such good roles, TPM roles. You're going to do some awesome stuff. You are very, very welcome. And as I've said to all of the others, please stay in touch with me, connect with me on LinkedIn. I would love to hear how your careers and how your stories go. And you'll all be hiring managers, hopefully at some point. So when you are, send your candidates my way. Oh, Janasha, please do. Okay, moving on. I've got 8 minutes left and bazillions of questions. I might have to run long. I might scream at my husband and tell him to delay dinner because I don't want to miss any of your questions. Okay, let's have a look. All right. So sorry, I will read this out because sometimes people listen to these things rather than watch them. So you're losing your nerve for your final interview for a site WHS manager. You've been preparing, got good experience with good stories, but what advice do I give for being confident? Practice, and some more practice. That's it, really. Do as many mock interviews as you possibly can. If you can, do a mock interview with a professional. It's definitely worth the investment, in my point of view. If you can't and you can find a colleague or a friend or someone in your home, just practice your stories. Someone who isn't like experienced as me, or maybe doing interviewing every day in their role, they will give you a better sense of what the experience will feel like. But practicing with anybody else will just help you reinforce muscle memory in your brain for your stories. If you've made it to loop, you've already gone through this a couple of times now. So just keep practicing, reinforcing your stories. Try practicing doing it through video the way you would do it on the actual day. Have your kind of trick notes set up around your screen or on the poster behind you. It's just about practice. I do have a video on my YouTube channel all about nerves. It's not the most popular video I have, but I did put it in there because plenty of people asked me about it. So go check that video out. There are other tips in there, like just admitting you're nervous to your interviewer, things like that. Good luck, Tanvi. You've made it far further than most people do. So you've got to feel good about that. That is definitely something that should make you feel confident. You made it far further than most people do. Okay. Ooh. Yeah. Hey, Sean. You've got your final 2 interview. You want to know how many final candidates are usually brought into loop. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that at all. So the Amazon interview process is simply a conveyor belt. It's a big old conveyor belt that just keeps churning candidates through until they find the candidate that raises the bar. So that could as easily be the first candidate who applies for the role might be bar raising, and the final, or it could be the 7,254 candidate that makes it through to loop. There, I cannot share with you the statistics end to end. I could have probably made a fag packet go out. It's a very British phrase that, isn't it? Sorry. A fag packet is a cigarette packet, and the analogy is that it's a small piece of paper, and you can do a simple calculation on the back of it. That's a fag packet calculation. I could have done that probably 5-6 years ago, making some average estimates about round 1 to round 2 to loop. But now, because as I said earlier, there's like at least 9 different ways of making it through the Amazon process, it's actually impossible to estimate now what percentage success rate you have at each step. But I definitely could never tell you how many final candidates make it through to loop, because they are not brought through to loop in a group. You are not bundled together in a group and compared to each other. It is simply a conveyor belt of people coming on and falling off, coming on and falling off, coming off, making it to loop. I hope that makes sense. Okay, moving on. Yeah. Okay, good question, Ishan. Yeah, so you have first round. Okay, you've been working on the same project for the past 3 years, so most of your examples relate to that project. Is okay. Yes, absolutely. This is a very common occurrence with people who are working on big research projects, big transformational projects. They work on those projects for a long time. However, Ishan, I'm sure you're going to tell me that that project has many different work streams in it and has gone through many different phases. So what you need to do is break that one big project down for 3 years into the different work streams, all the different phases, and then pull your examples from those phases. And then when you talk about your example, you need to tee it up in this way. I'm going to talk to you about a transformation project that I have been working on for 3 years, which had many different work streams to it. I'm going to focus on the work stream around IT transformation. The situation was blah, 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 blah. And then the next time you talk, you say, I'm going to talk about a big transformation project that I was working on for about 3 years. And the work stream that I'm going to talk to you about now is organizational design. The situation was blah, blah, blah. See what I'm doing there? Although I'm saying it's kind of the same overall project, I'm being very clear about the different elements at what point I'm talking about in this project. And that way, it's not really the same example. It's just kind of just the same umbrella, but effectively, it's your job. It would be no different from me saying, hi, yeah, I was working as the senior manager for Amazon Prime Video. It's kind of the same thing, right? Okay, moving on then. Moving on, please, people, don't ask me very specific things about exactly what kind of components you're going to be getting in your interviews. Thousands of different job families in Amazon. I cannot tell you the specifics of the functional requirements for every single one of them. Okay. Moving on then, sorry. Yeah. Oh, it's you again, Maya. I didn't notice that. Yes, interviewers expect you to prepare stories. How else would you get ready for an Amazon interview? Yeah, absolutely. Yep, Fabio, quickly, this is not part of the assessment process. This is the chance for you to speak to your recruiter and get as prepared as you possibly can for the process. It is not part of the assessment. It is part of your opportunity to get some good info so that you can prepare yourself. Ooh, okay. A man from South 128. Right. So this is an extension of the point that I was making earlier. So does Amazon offer the job to the first person who raises the bar? Yes, they do. Or do they finish the scheduled interviews with the others as well and then decide? No, they do not. They are supposed to make the offer to the first person who raises the bar. Sometimes there might be another candidate who's coming to loop really quickly after they found the person that they've decided is bar raising. If that happens, they do often complete that loop, because at this point the candidate has prepared so much. It kind of seems totally unreasonable to tell them to go away. And sometimes if they perform really well, what the team will then do is say, well, actually, yes, we need to now go and find this person another role because we consider them to be bar raising. However, I have seen plenty of examples where 2 days before someone's interview loop is due, they get a call or an email from the recruiter to tell them that the role has been filled. Okay. Moving on then. Oh, so many more questions. All right, so we're now on past. I'm gonna go for another 10 minutes because my husband has made my dinner and I'll get yelled at if I'm not there at the table with everybody else. So I am going to go for another 10 minutes. I'm going to say, if you really want me to answer your question, you can make use of the super chat functionality here on YouTube, and it will escalate it. Yeah, it will escalate it in terms of visibility so that I can see it. Otherwise, I'm just going to quickly eyeball and see if there's anything there that I think will be useful for everybody. Okay, Buki. Oh, no, that was it. Yeah, Buki, I'll do this quickly. You can use any job that you have, Buki. You can use that. It doesn't matter if it's your full-time employment or if it's your side hustle. It's still work, a revenue-generating thing that you do. So yes, you can use examples from there. All right, so John, salary expectations you think you've lowballed yourself. So I think it's relatively easy to recover from, in the fact that when they come back to you with the offer, you can just simply say, do you know what? I did some additional research after we first spoke, and I've identified that actually my original view was a bit undercalling it, given the information that I found out about the market. That's it. Just because you put a number on the table early on doesn't mean that that's a number that you have to stick to. It's a little bit trickier and maybe a little bit irritating for the recruiter that they've managed the comp analyst team to a certain number. However, of course, you can recover it. You just say, look, I've done some more research. Okay, good luck. Hopefully that's a problem. I hope for you that is a real problem to have. Okay. Oh, Shweta, you get the prize for being the person that asked the question that I always hope someone is going to ask, because I have to be honest and tell you, this subject, of all the subjects about Amazon interviewing, is the one that gets me most riled. So well done, Shweta. You've given me the chance to get my soapbox. So hang on, I'm climbing on my soapbox here. Shweta would like to know, should you expect difficult questions for the bar raiser or normal questions? Normal questions, Shweta. Normal questions. Here's the thing. There are no particular leadership principles that the bar raiser asks you. They're assigned them at random, the same way everyone's assigned their leadership principles at random. There are no specific questions that they're going to ask you, because there are no questions reserved for bar raisers. They're not going to be any tougher on you than any other experienced interviewer at Amazon. There are many very experienced interviewers at Amazon who are not bar raisers because they're not interested in bar raising. Your bar raiser is likely to be an experienced interviewer, but they're not going to grill you any harder than anybody else who is an experienced interviewer. And the reason why I get on my soapbox about this is I am infuriated when I see Amazon interview coaches who sell products with the promise that they can coach you in terms of how to perform well and how to nail your bar raise around. Because they can, but they can do that in exactly the same way as everything else they tell you about every other interviewer. There is no secret sauce to nailing the bar raise around. And anyone tells you that there is, I'm sorry, they are hawking snake oil. And I always say this, if you can tell them I said that, and please send them in my direction to explain to me what special thing they know that I, who was a bar raiser, I who was trained by bar raisers, and I who trained bar raisers myself, don't know. I say this to many people, and I'm yet to have another Amazon interview coach contact me. So there we are. Thank you for letting me get on my soapbox. That was probably more dramatic than you were expecting, but there you go. Okay. Let's move on. Oh, okay, Jasir. Hello, Jasir, you're back. It's been a while, I think, since I saw you. Any advice on how to answer why Amazon? Yes, I have a YouTube video on it. It's my, I think, top ranking YouTube video. I put a lot of work into that. It's quite extensive. So go check that one out. Do they place a lot of weight on that question? Again, that video covers this off, but I'll tell you briefly here. In the earlier rounds, yes, they're not supposed to. Your motivation for wanting to join Amazon from a policy point of view is not supposed to influence any decision in terms of moving you on or hiring you. Why you want to work for Amazon is neither here nor there. From a policy point of view, if you're good enough to work for Amazon is all that they're supposed to care about. But the reality is in early rounds when you're kind of one-to-one with hiring managers or peers, you know, there's no bar raiser oversight there. And they obviously really want to make sure that you want to work in their role for them. Bar raiser is less concerned about that. They're concerned about whether you're a good fit for Amazon overall. And therefore, because there's no oversight, because there is a bias in hiring managers and peers to have someone that is going to stick around in their particular role, they do put more weight on that than from a policy point of view they should. By the time anyone gets to loop, it's not going to carry any weight at all. And certainly the bar raiser should be making sure that your motivation is doing nothing to influence the outcome of your loop. Okay. Naveen, I've already answered that question. So hopefully you were here a second ago. Okay, moving on, moving on. Oh, good question, Kyoyal. It is never too late to apply to Amazon. Now, I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that there were a lot of 60-year-olds that I worked with at Amazon, right? I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that's the case because it's not. The vast majority, just from a weighted contribution perspective of people that I worked with were sub 45. Now, I worked in marketing, which is traditionally a much younger kind of type of organization. So I'm not going to lie and say the place is chock full of 60-year-olds. But it's a place that wants people who have the right skills, the right capabilities, and are raising the bar. They don't care how old you are. They really don't, because it's a very evidence-based interview process. So I'm going to really encourage you, if you have the skills and if you think you're kind of top of your game, then go for it, right? What is the worst that can happen? They say no. No loss, right? So please do go for it. There are people there on that side of the career kind of journey. There's no question about that. Can't tell you I worked with many of them, but they are there. So do you know what? Go for it. Go for it, go for it, go for it. Please go for it and come back and let me know how you get on. Okay, lots of questions about bar raiser questions. Hopefully I have made my point that there are no bar raiser questions. And if you weren't here, just rewind the video a little bit. Moving on then. Okay. Yeah. Right. So I have a video about grads, okay, on my YouTube channel. I'm way ahead of you folks, way ahead. So please go check out my video on graduates. Yes, totally understandable that you'd have a hard time coming up with that many stories, 10 in your case. It's fine as a grad to have less stories because, of course, you have less experience. If you're as old and ugly as me and you've been in the market like 25 years, it would be a very poor reflection of my performance if I could only come up with 10 stories. But given you're like a million years younger than me, you're going to have less experience, and therefore it's totally understandable that you'll be able to come up with less. So please just go check out my video. Such good tips in there for grads. I did a lot of bar raising on graduate days. So check it out. It comes from a place of a lot of expertise. Okay, moving on, moving on. Okay. Tim Man, I have no idea what an RLPM is. Like there are so many acronyms. I don't know all of them. And I'm not sure I could tell you what the level is given the nature of that acronym. Kind of it pretty self-explains to me that it doesn't have any of the nomenclature keys in it. So I don't think I'd be able to tell you. Ah, yeah, yeah. Hey, Dimitri. So yes, you can't find any details. Highlight the details in my channel. So go to anywhere in my channel that talks about the free customer obsession masterclass. If you go there, that will take you to my academy. You can get it totally, totally free. And that will then present you with all of the masterclasses that I do in the Amazon Interview Wiz Academy. I will put the URL up at the end of this session in about I might sneak another 4 minutes in. My husband's going to start yelling at me. But I will put up that link so you can go check that out there. Okay. Okay, moving on then. Moving on. Okay, final couple of questions before I get yelled at. He's such a tyrant. Such a tyrant, my husband. Okay. Okay, so here's one. All right. Hey, Heather. So this is a good question, actually, because this comes up quite a lot in terms of people's misunderstanding of the invent and simplify leadership principles. So it sounds like, Heather, you're a little bit concerned about the invent and simplify and talking about how you improved instead of created. Right. So invent and simplify is coming up with new ideas. So Heather, if you created a new process for your program manager, right? Yeah. So if you came up with a new process for how to bring together your program and all of the different people and how you maybe created a new process for how they're communicating, that's inventing, right? Anything that kind of was an idea that you came up with and made happen, you invented something. It doesn't need to be a piece of software or a product. It's a process, it's an experience. You invented it. Simplify, is definitely kind of the area that you're talking about in terms of improvement, where something was really complicated, let's say, as a process, and you found a way of making it much easier, much quicker, less resource burden, less time, etc. So you can use either creating, inventing, simplifying, kind of improving, but open your minds in terms of what invent and simplify is about. It's about a new way of doing things. So you can invent and simplify when it comes to, I don't know, cleaning your house. Quite honestly, you'd be amazed at things that I've invented in my house, all sorts of bizarre dusters to get into little cracks and places. So yeah, hopefully that helps a little bit. Right, moving on then. I'm going to go for one more question, I think. I'm so sorry I haven't got to everybody's questions. There are so many of them and I just don't have enough time. But please do come back on next Monday, or indeed just drop the question into YouTube and I will try and answer it there. So let me just one more eyeball and see what I can come up with. Eyeballing, eyeballing, eyeballing. Okay. Karem, please check out my video about how to take notes. That will answer your question for you. Moving on. Okay. Lloyd George. Do you know what? Even though you've got Arsenal there on your little logo, the North London girl in me, like I saw far too much Arsenal growing up. I hate football. And Arsenal, I'm afraid, features quite highly on the list of football clubs that I'm just not a fan of. But there we go. Moving on. Finding a hard time to map the leadership principle to our right a lot. Any feedback is much appreciated. So please, Lloyd, check out my website, which is the AmazonInterviewWiz.com. And there is a blog there about all of the different leadership principles and the questions associated with them. If you haven't got that already, that will be useful, because our Write a Lot is effectively about making judgments. When you've got no data, when you haven't got a clue what the answer is, just taking a stab at it. And it can be a stab based on your own history and your own experiences. It could be a stab in terms of finding someone else who's a way better judge of the whole thing than you are, or taking on board others' feedback and recognizing that, you don't really know what you're talking about and somebody else probably knows better. It's about making good, high judgments. So think about any time where really you just had no clue, no idea what the right answer was. So you just had to make a call. Okay, hope that is helpful. I am at this point, I'm afraid, going to have to go and get my evening meal. Oh, Danielle, thank you so much. I'm going to do this one quickly, all right, because that has jumped to the top using the super chat function. It is useful, that super chat function. So Daniel, it's not Danielle, sorry, how rude. Daniel, you made it to Loop. You're interviewing for a senior manager role. This is an L7. This is an L7 role, Daniel. Big role, okay? So, I mean, I said it to Cheryl earlier, didn't I? Go as big as you possibly can. But L7 roles are usually roles that are taken by people who are directors in other organizations. So yeah, I mean, certainly management consultants, director levels come in there. We hired someone who was a director at Virgin. Do you know Virgin? They came in as an L7. So they are big roles. So please, you've got to have lots of complexity, lots of moving parts, plenty of ambiguity. All of the things I said to Cheryl at the beginning apply to everybody, but especially when you're hitting L7 and L8 roles. I hope that was helpful for you, Daniel, and I'm sorry I misgendered you there. Good picture, though. Very cool. Right. So on this note, everyone, I'm going to have to end it here. But please, before you go and get my free Customer Obsession Masterclass, right? AmazonInterviewWizAcademy.com. Free Customer Obsession Masterclass. It tells you about the different facets of customer obsession. All leadership principles have multiple facets to them. It's a language I created. It's a learning structure that I created. It's not an official Amazon one, but trust me, it works. So there are multiple facets for each leadership principle. Customer obsession happens to have the most at 4. Go check that out and learn what that's all about. It will also tell you the behaviors. Literally, it tells you the behaviors that your interviewer is looking for in your customer obsession examples. You can literally say, oh, I need to find a behavior that says I was coaching my my customer so that they made the right decision. It's all there. It's all there. And then there is a mock interview of me interviewing me, which is always very amusingly schizophrenic. Go check that out, and it just shows you how it could all come together in an interview. And it's just a bit of a demo that brings together the facets, the behaviors, etc. Totally free. I will not be chasing you with marketing. I know that's the reason why most people make things free. I make it free because I believe it's really very, very good. And if you watch it, you will think it's good enough to go and make some more purchases. So please take it with love. I hope it serves you well. On that note, I will be going now for my evening meal. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you for all of your questions. I am so... I just spotted, that's my husband. I can clearly no longer say rude things about him on my live YouTubes because he's watching. That's so funny. Oh, kill myself. Honestly, it's a laugh a minute living here. I cannot tell you. Thank you for joining. That's my husband and my children, the image. I'm glad we got a chance to introduce you. Please come back on Monday. If you have any interviews between now and then, I wish you the very best of luck. Congrats to all of you who let me know today and everyone else that you got jobs. Amazing, amazing job. Be safe, everybody. And I'll see you at some point on YouTube. Bye.